All right, kiddos, part 2 here of finding equivalent fractions using some math rather than models. And this time we're going to be doing what's called simplifying. So far you would have noticed that we've only been finding larger equivalent fractions. So we've started with a very small number like 2/3, and we've seen that number get bigger and bigger. Now, what happens if we have to go the opposite direction? We're given a large numerator and a large denominator and want to find an equivalent fraction that is smaller, has smaller numbers than that. The value again is the same, but the numbers are smaller. Well, to do the opposite, we need to use division rather than using multiplication. So we are going to go ahead and we are going to use the number 24/40ths to find a smaller equivalent fraction. So I've already got our workspace started again. I clicked down here on the insert math space and I've got started on 24/40ths. So the steps that we're going to take to finding equivalent fractions to 24/40ths are to start by finding all of the common factors that 24 and 40 have. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get my math space ready and ask you all to find the factors of 24. Now, factors again are those numbers that go evenly into the number 24. So when I'm looking at the factors, I know that 1 and 24 go into 24. I know that 2 and 12 go into the number 24 because 2 times 12 is 24. 3 times 8 is 24. And there's one more pair here of 4 and 6. 4 times 6 is 24. So the number 24 has lots of factors, and we just wrote them all out there. Let's insert those up here so we have them ready. Now, to find a common factor, we also need to list all of the factors of 40. So 1 times 40 are 2 factors. 2 times 20 are 2 factors. The number 3 doesn't go into 40, but 4 does. 4 times 10 is 40. And the number 5 also goes into 40. 5 times 8 gives you 40. So there are all of your factors to the number 40. So I replaced the math. Let's undo that and click on a new space to insert the new numbers. And I'll put them down there by our denominator, 40. Okay, so now that we've found all of the factors of 24 and 40, we need to find the ones that are in common. So I'm going to go grab my little pen down here at the bottom and we'll find the common ones. I see 2 up here and down there. I see 1 in both, but if I divide these by 1, I'm not going to make any changes. 24 divided by 1 is 24, and 40 divided by 1 is 40. So we're going to ignore the number 1. I see the number 3 as a factor here, but it's not a common factor. So let's get rid of the number 3. I see the number 4 in both sets of factors, so it will be a common factor. The number 6 is only up here and not in the bottom. The number 8 is in both sets. The number 12 is only at the top and not in the bottom. And same with the number 24. So we have found all of the common factors between 24 and 40. Those are going to be our key numbers in helping us find equivalent fractions. So the next thing we're going to do here is simply divide the numerator and the denominator by each of those numbers. I'm going to start by dividing 24 by 2 and 40 by 2 to get our equivalent fraction. 24 divided by 2 is 12, and 40 divided by 2 is 20. I then am going to do the same step but dividing by 4. So let's divide both the numerator and the denominator by 4. 24 divided by 4 is 6, and 40 divided by 4 is 10. And finally, we have one more number here, 8. So 24 divided by 8 is 3. And 40 divided by 8 is 5. So we have found our new equivalent fractions by simplifying. Now this one here, 3/5, there's no way to make that smaller. So that one is called our lowest terms. So if you're ever asked to find a fraction in its lowest terms, you'll need to bring it down until you can't divide the top and the bottom by any common factor. So just to prove this is true, which we always like to do, we're going to come over and just show each of those fractions on our fraction strips. So the second one we set had 12 segments. If you just highlight in here, 20 segments, you can just type in the number 20 and it's a little bit faster when you're working with big numbers. And 12 of those segments are going to be shaded. And look, we have the equivalent amount shaded here. We're going to show 6/10 quickly as well. So 10 segments, 6 of those segments are shaded. And last but not least, we are going to show 5 segments and 3 of those segments shaded, or 3/5 shaded. So again, we've come up with proof of equivalent fractions, this time dividing to simplify our fractions and find our simplest version of it, 3/5. We are going to insert that back into our workspace. And here it comes. Excellent. So there we go. We have our equivalent fractions by dividing. We have our model of that, and it's going to be your turn again. I've given you the larger fraction 8/24. You are going to divide that by those common factors and then create your own models for that. At the end today, I'm just going to have you practice both things. Can you create a lower equivalent fraction by simplifying? Can you create a larger equivalent fraction by multiplying? Remembering they all have the same value in the end. They are called equivalent fractions. Good luck with the rest of today's work, and we'll talk to you again soon.